cast, William Ricciardella, Jason Nichols, and Robert Patillo are joining us. Robert, did the Israeli government make the right decision in denying Tlaib and Omar denied their visa to visit the country?
Absolutely not. We have to understand the amount of money that the United States gives Israel as part of the aid packages, the amount of military support that we lend them, the idea that lawmakers can be banned from a country that we are giving billions of dollars to simply based upon disagreeing with their policy, disagreeing with them standing up for Palestinian human rights. I think it's abhorrent to our system, and I think the Congress needs to take action to make sure that Israel understands that if you want this amount of economic support from the United States of America, then our lawmakers have to be allowed to go there to speak with the citizens, to go on diplomatic missions. It is not an exclusive club when we're already paying the admission price to come in.
You know, Professor Nichols, I remember that during the days of the galleys when somebody was hung by the neck and they dropped them. Even then, it did not assure that the person would die. And interesting enough, rarely did they have a broken neck as a result of it. And when their neck is broken, it really indicates that it was a very brutal death. You take Jeffrey Epstein. He died a day before they started calling the names of who was involved in this, to say that he committed suicide. Some saying it's assisted suicide. It's kind of hard to believe, especially when there were so many broken bones, that it was suicide.
No, I agree 100%. It looks very fishy right now. Apparently he wasn't on suicide watch at the time, but still, with the broken bones in his neck, and the circumstances of his death seem very, very fishy. We know that he was connected to a lot of powerful people on both sides of the political spectrum. And I think that we really need a full investigation to see what happened here.
You know, Anthony Carlucci spoke out this week saying that he was no longer supporting President Trump. Mark Sanford is talking about challenging President Trump in the GOP primary. The different question that I asked, though, is, and there's also been an indication that there's this disruption and there's this storm growing against the president. Does Trump need a challenger? And what does this speak to in terms of the president and his core base?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, you can look at Mark Sanford, who's been he's been a libertarian. I mean, that's what he is. He's a hardcore conservative. You can see the national debt's probably bothering him. Trump's trade war, what's gone on in the stock market the past few days, these effects of the trade war that are hurting actual people. I think that's what probably bothers Mark Sanford and why he wants to mount a challenge. Scaramucci's probably doing it more for personal reasons. He wants to get on TV. He wants to be heard. I think that's part of the reason why he wanted to be in the administration. That would go along with his personality profile. So I don't really think there's I don't think there's a big mounting challenge against the president. Would it be good for somebody to challenge him? Why not? I mean, I think there's some perhaps disenfranchised conservatives out there that care about the same things that Mark Sanford does.
Well, why is it that, I mean, this national debt is out of control? It's just really whopping. They're just spending like there's no, like drunken sailors. Why is it, I mean, when Obama was in the White House, and he was spending in the national debt. I mean, Republicans were railing against the Democrats and President Obama in the White House. What has happened?
Well, I think you have to remember that first day of political science class where they say tell you politics is the question of who gets what when. And now the Republicans are in control, and when they had control of the Senate and the House, they realized, well, since people aren't really motivated and voting based off of debt and deficit and national spending, then why don't we get our piece of the pie also? Why don't we pay off our constituents for for them putting us in power? And now it's gone even further with the 2020 Democrats now just basically saying all economics are out the window. We're going to pay for everything. Everyone gets everything free that they want. They're chicken in every pot, and we're going to continue going this way until we hit the wall and crash and realize that we've gone too far in spending.
You know, Representative Stephen King, who I think sometimes give ignorance new meaning, you know, I criticized him when he said there would probably be no world population growth if it were not for rape and incest, and given the conversation that we just had. But I guess if you're thinking about it from a biblical perspective, obviously there was incest with Cain and Abel. There's no way we would be here today. And if you like Genghis Khan and how he conquered the world, the rape and the pillage, and certainly in the royal family, if you look at monarchies throughout the history, there's certainly incest where they keep it inside the family. I mean, it does exist, but to say that there will probably be no world population if it were not for rape and incest, I'm just, you know, it's so easy to dismiss people. I mean, look at what goes on in churches, in the Catholic Church. These young boys are raped and women are raped. I mean, when you think about it, 150, 200 years ago, they were marrying 12 and 13-year-old girls like 40 going north. And it was perfectly legal. Then today it's frowned upon and we consider it as rape and sexual assault. So is this something that we should take a look at? I just blow him off saying that he's ignorant and just out of touch.
Well, let's look at the media coverage. I think, and I'm not defending anything Steve King said. It's obviously hyperbolic and poorly worded. I wouldn't use that, but I think the media coverage was a bit disingenuous in the headlines that they used, just saying that, you know, we'd probably have no population if there wasn't for rape and incest. What he was really saying is that people, you know, born from incest or rape are people too, and that those, I mean, he's trying to defend those people against abortion. Aborting somebody who was born via rape or incest. So I feel like a lot of the headlines were a bit disingenuous, even though what he said was certainly hyperbolic and something probably maybe a poor argument. But what he's saying is if you go back through history, if we were to eradicate all the people who were born from rape and incest, where would we be today? That was the question he was posing, as opposed to what the headlines said.
Was it beneath the Speaker of the House when she was speaking to refer to Mitch McConnell as Moscow Mitch?
I think all the traditional rules have been broken. Everything, if you have told somebody 10 or 20 years ago that the president would on a regular basis go on Twitter and get into like a Def Comedy Jam session, giving people nicknames and making fun of them, I don't think anybody would believe them. We're in a new day and time. We're in a new political environment. We're in a new social media environment. And Nancy Pelosi is going with the time. She's a 70-plus-year-old woman who wants to, who has a very young caucus. And if Moscow Mitch is trending, then she has to go along with what's trending on social media because she has to hold that caucus together.
You know, I was actually shocked, Professor Nichols, that after, and I do believe, I understand why Chris Cuomo reacted the way he did, but he was with his 9-year-old daughter and his wife. The expletives is just really, to me, was not necessary. I wasn't as shocked at somebody trying to set him up. I was proud of the fact that Sean Hannity came to his defense. But then the president tweets out the next day, well, I thought your name was Fredo.
Yeah, I thought that was, you know, but again, this is kind of what was being said earlier, is that the president doesn't pay attention to, you know, the rules of decorum and things that we have associated with the office for a really long time. He's somebody who likes gossip. He likes to tweet. And it was disappointing, you know, on his part. And at the same time, for him to call Chris Cuomo crazy and say that he was, you know, shouldn't have a weapon and all these kinds of things and not pay attention to the things that he's done on Twitter was also a little odd to me.
Well, he doesn't hold people to the same standard that he holds himself. That has always been the case. Is the economy slowing down? The Fed, the interest rate, it's a great time to buy. Is the economy slowing, and should that be a concern for the White House?
I don't think the economy is slowing down. I think there are things, deep-seated things in the economy that could have an effect, much like the deficit, perhaps on people that may want to invest or spend right now are thinking we're at some point going to have to pay our deficit back, which means that we're going to have to raise taxes, right? This might discourage them from investing. I also think that the tariffs are going to have a huge impact going forward on the economy. I think a lot of people, conservatives in particular, in the Trump administration, don't want to admit that. But I think this is really harmful to our economy. The Smoot-Hawley tariffs in 1930 are really a large culprit of what happened at that time. People blame it on the market crash in '29, but it really was the enactment of the Smoot-Hawley tariffs where you saw a massive crash in the economy. These can be dangerous, and they do hurt people, particularly poor people who buy goods from China that are cheaper and a better value to them.
You know, and for all of us as men, raping, sexual assault of women is unacceptable anywhere. We must do better, especially for our sons and daughters that are yet to come. I'm Armstrong Williams.